Hello and welcome. This is Heavy Business. I'm Aaliyah.
And I'm Curtis.
And today we are here with Hope from No Clean Singing. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Hope.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Right on. Curtis, you want to take it away?
Yes, I was trying to unmute myself. I'm very sorry. So Hope, for those people that do not know who you are, can you please give a brief summary of who you are and what you do in the metal community?
Sure, I'd love to. So my name is Hope. I am based in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, where we have a great local thriving metal scene. And I have recently started writing for No Clean Singing, which is such an honor. And I've just kind of been, involved in just being a fan of metal music for quite a few years, both online and in my personal life.
Nice. So have you been in Vancouver for a while then, I take it?
I've been here 5 years, 5.5 years.
Cool. So you're quite familiar with the scene there. So before we get into any other questions, can you just kind of go over like your, how do I want to phrase this?
Maybe your background, how you got into journalism and stuff?
Yeah.
How I got into journalism?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I've always enjoyed writing. It's just something that I've kind of always gravitated to in school, something that's kind of always followed me. And then several years ago, I had written some blog posts about my experience having grown up as a Jehovah's Witness, which is a whole other story. And my friend who runs his own independent blog called Thy Kingdom Scum had asked me if I'd be interested in doing a guest review on his website for some time. And I said, yes, I would love to do that. So I had written about the last Weegadood record, which is stellar. Go check it out if you haven't. And then my partner, actually, who has written for various sites for years and has been with Your Last Rites for quite some time, floated the idea to me about writing somewhere on a more full-time basis. And he had actually sent some of my work to the guy behind NCS, and he liked what I did, and the rest is history.
So before we continue, I have a quick question. So you aren't just into metal stuff, right? Because you do seem to only write for No Clean Singing. So I was curious about that.
Oh no, I love everything. I know that's a really stereotypical answer, but no, metal is actually a fairly new endeavor for me. Well, within the last 5 or 6 years, I would say. Because of my background of how I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, a lot of that more extreme music was really something that I was always interested in, but never allowed myself to get into. So no, I love Chicago, and Delta blues is really where my love of music started.
Nice.
I had a long love affair with like indie folk and stuff like that, and I love a lot of hip hop too. So no, it just so happens that metal is kind of my passion, and it's so fun to write about.
Cool. Aaliyah, do we want to start on the Twitter questions?
Actually, let's just continue talking about journalism. I think that makes sense.
I'm fine with that.
Sure.
So how do you decide what bands to cover on No Clean Singing?
That's a great question. So I have the privilege at NCS about writing about bands that I want to write about, bands that really, really excite me. The first article that I did with them was a review for a local band, and that was really cool to be able to provide a platform to them. And from there, it's really just been bands that I have really loved in the past that I really wanted to provide another platform to, or just bands that I came across via various promos that really spoke to me. And that's a fun process in itself, is sorting through all the promos and stuff that I get. But yeah, so far it's been mostly just propping up bands that I think deserve it, which is the fun part, is being able to write like a fan.
Who was the first band that you wrote about, out of curiosity?
So they're called Egregore. They had a release on 20 Buck Spin last year, which did quite well, but it's also the guys from Mitochondrion and Auroch, so local to my scene, and they've been in death metal for years and years and years.
I did not know that those guys were involved in that project, and now I'm going to be checking it out.
I highly encourage you to. It's a fun ride.
I'm sure. Have you seen, I think I might have asked you this, have you seen Mitochondrion live?
I have, yeah.
You have? Awesome. Okay, Aaliyah, off to you, or otherwise I'm going to fanboy out.
Oh, well, so is death metal pretty much like your wheelhouse, or do you like other subgenres of metal? What are you into?
Black metal is my thing. Death metal is of course something I love, but black metal is where my heart is, for sure.
I want to ask a question. Okay, so All right. So with your first review that you did,
Yeah.
have you done interviews before with bands? You have, right?
I have, yeah. And so the first review that I did it was a very mini review, and the rest of it was an interview, which was cool. I kind of got to give them the stage, and they really took and ran with it.
Okay, did you do it by email or did you do it in person?
It was email, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So can you kind of go over how did you kind of figure out what the questions were you were going to come up with for the first interview that you did?
Sure,
I'm sure it was
yeah.
nerve-wracking, but
Well, it wasn't because I know them personally. You know, I've been in the scene for years, and so I know of them, and you know, have had conversations with them. So, you know, I was nervous because I respect them greatly as musicians, that's for sure. But yeah, so listening to their album and kind of comparing it to the works that I know of them was what helped me come up with some questions. And then just the content, the lyrical content of that album is absolutely wild. So kind of building off of that was fun.
interesting. So you're a lyric. Me and Leo
We were just talking.
we were talking about that
Really?
this afternoon.
Yeah.
Aaliyah, you can.
Well, because I'm very into lyrics, but I have had to come to the realization over the years that not a lot of people are that into lyrics.
Yeah.
And so
Especially in metal.
especially in metal. So, but it's cool, you know, there's such good writing and there's terrible writing as well with lyricists in metal, but it's nice to appreciate that. It makes sense as a writer that you would be into the lyrics.
Yeah, that's true. I think, you know, obviously music that has the vocals are a lot more distinctive, you could say. You know, it's more interesting to read the lyrics than it would be for black metal shrieking, where it's not even distinguishable. But even that can be fun to track those down sometimes too, and really get the artist's vision.
When you're doing a review, then do you try to seek out the lyrics then? Like, I mean, we never put lyrics in our promos almost ever. I'm just curious.
If I can find them, yeah, if I can find them, I will for sure. I mean, it's not always necessarily relevant to what I'm looking for. You know, first and foremost, it's how are the riffs?
Yeah.
How are the blast beats? And then I'll go from there, right? But yeah, sometimes it's relevant to the story that they're trying to tell and just the overall vision of the release.
I just get curious because writers will sometimes tell me, oh, I always check out the lyrics, but then 99% of the time, nobody fucking asks us. So I'm like legitimately interested. Do people actually read them or not? So,
well, it's a thing, like it wouldn't hurt to include it in the promo, right?
it wouldn't hurt. It's just the issue is I used to do it all the time, and then everybody I talk to, they're like, I don't fucking need the lyrics. Like, so it was like, seemed to be a waste of time having to get them all typed up, you know, put the PDF, upload it, and anyways.
You know, I had to type up all the lyrics anyway to put them in my CD booklet. So most bands are probably going to be in that situation anyway. They got a Word doc somewhere.
There you go.
Depends. That's neither here nor there.
Can I ask, when it comes to a written interview, I think it's a little intimidating to a lot of bands, like writing out their thoughts versus speaking them. It's not always a natural communication method for them to do that. Do you have any tips for bands on how to write a compelling response to interview questions?
Tips for how to write a compelling response. I mean, the egregore interview was certainly compelling. I'll say that. They worked with a lot of imagery, which was very fun. You know, just talk as if you were, or just write as if you were having a conversation. You know, I don't think that anything has to be flowery unless that's the vision that you're going for, or overly descriptive unless that's the way that you want to present yourself. But really sincerely take a look at how would somebody who has never listened to my music perceive my music based on what I'm saying. And, you know, if you feel like it represents you and your voice as a narrator, then you're on the right track.
So what can bands do to get your attention? I know you said you get I'm sure you get tons and tons of demos. So what do you like to see in those emails or the demos that catches your eye and makes you want to look further?
First of all, I have to say I'm in the beginning stages of receiving my own promos. So my inbox isn't as crazy as it might be for some people who've been doing this for years, like, you know, my partner, for instance. So for me, it is a little bit easier to filter through for now. And don't get me wrong, my inbox is still full. And I do get bands DMing me their demo and their Bandcamp link. And to be perfectly honest with you, 9 times out of 10, those do go unread, simply because I just don't have the time and you know, I appreciate receiving them from a different source. But yeah, I mean, for me, when I am looking through promos, perfectly honest, the first thing that I do is I look for labels that I really enjoy. You know, Sentient Ruin, for one, is a label that they put out like 9 times out of 10, something that I'm going to enjoy. Amor Fati, Tour de Garde out of Quebec, you know, Parasitic, things like that. And certain countries and regions I'll gravitate towards too. If it's from Chile, I'm probably going to put it on. If it's, you know, Finnish black metal, it's probably going to go on. If it's from Quebec, I'll check it out. And I'm a sucker for good art. You know, it doesn't always make the album great, but if it is something that really catches my eye, then, you know, I'm more inclined to check it out.
There it is. There it is. There's one thing that you can, the bands can totally control is what kind of image they put out.
Right.
I have to admit something. I'm going to say it right now for everybody on the podcast. I will many times just buy an album based on the art. I won't even fucking.
Oh yeah.
I don't even look. I don't even listen. Rather, I just bing. I found so many good things that way. Hope, can you tell us a couple of albums that attracted you visually that you found to be awesome afterwards? Kind of like a blind buy, blind listen type thing, just based on the artwork. I mean,
based on the artwork.
yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Wear a Goat. I think that's kind of become almost
kind of obvious. Yeah.
It's been a little bit synonymous with my online presence, which is funny. Yeah. But you know, I love really disturbingly erotic imagery. I have a lot of Wear a Goat, you know. Thank you.
I could tell by the Wear a Goat thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. You know, so my entire apartment is full of Wear a Goat art, specifically
nice.
From the artist who does their album art, and I think he's just fantastic. So, you know, anything that really grabs your attention and pushes things to the limits is something that I'm gonna check out for sure. But I also really love very minimalist art. You know, Autonosis, for instance, put out a great album last year, and it was just black with a black hole, or you know, an old space photograph.
I'm writing this down so I don't forget to check it out later.
Oh yeah, you absolutely must.
Oh, definitely. Any other albums that kind of grabbed your eye that were awesome that you listened to?
I'm trying to think. Most recently, there was a really great demo that just came out by a band out of Brazil called Hell Poison. The art is very graphic. I strongly recommend checking it out. It's, you know, first wave Bathory worship, which is definitely my thing. And definitely more inclined to check stuff like that out when the art is so eye-catching.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Aaliyah, do we want to talk more about this topic?
I mean, we can. I was actually just listening to a stream from a guy who works for Banger TV, Blaine Smith, and he's metal comedy, and he goes through all of the albums that are releasing in a month on Metal Archives, and he comments on them. And he's a comedian, so a lot of it is roasting the releases, and a lot of it has to do with the artwork. And he has found that connection to be true as well, I think, based off of what he said in his stream, that if it has good artwork, there's a chance it's going to be good. But if it has really bad artwork, it's probably going to be bad.
But not always.
Not always, no.
Not always.
Not always.
But yeah, what about you were quick to say not always. So do you think that you have encountered some albums recently that had really bad artwork but were good albums?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a really, really great EP that came out last year by a band out of Boston called Ancient Death. As far as death metal goes, it was my second favorite EP of the year. Absolutely fantastic, crushing. You know, disembowelment, a lot of disembowelment going on there, which I'm a huge fan of. and the art was horrible. It was so bad. And I think I saw quite a few people talking about it.
Wow, this is horrible.
It
Holy
is
shit.
bad.
Holy
Yeah,
shit. Sorry.
it's
Go ahead.
unfortunate. Like, it's enough to make me not almost not want to check it out, but it came highly recommended to me. And
I would have
couldn't help it,
deleted
so,
that in a second. I'm sorry. That would have been,
yeah.
Well, there you go.
yeah. Aaliyah, did you look at that art?
No, I didn't. What was the name?
I highly recommend you check it out. It's Ancient Death. This is something that you could do for a reaction. It's just so fucking bad. Anyways, while Aaliyah's looking that up, okay, so we were talking about art. So other than the albums that you mentioned, is there exactly.
For anybody listening on Spotify, I
thrown
just
off.
made a facial expression based off of my first impression of the artwork, and
And
you
please
can tune
listen
into
to
us
the
on
album.
YouTube to see it.
Like, please listen to the album. Fantastic
Okay.
band. Don't judge a book by the horrible cover.
Not this time, at least.
I just got totally thrown off by your reaction, Aaliyah. I don't even remember what I was going to ask.
I'm sorry. It
That
was
was
very
perfect.
visceral.
That was perfect. Do you want to talk about Twitter for a bit, Aaliyah, or do you want to stay on?
Yeah, let's
music
dive
for a
in
bit?
on let's dive in on Twitter. So hope you have a very excellent, solid presence on Twitter. And if anybody wants to follow Hope, she is at Space Wanderess on Twitter. Great tweets and a lot of great engagement as well. But first things first, why do you think that bands should be on Twitter?
I wouldn't necessarily say that bands have to be on Twitter. I think it's such a small microcosm of what the metal community is. I think that a lot of people tend to overinflate it because we spend a lot of time there, but there's really only a few hundred people that really are actively on there hanging out. So I don't even know that it is the best promotion place for a band, but if you're small, and if you're really looking to grow and you're looking to get in with a community that will support you 110%, then Twitter is a good place for that. But I wouldn't say that it should be the first place that a band would run to promote themselves.
I want to get controversial for a minute here. So I'm kind of two opinions on Twitter. I like it. I mean, I met people like you. I actually met Aaliyah through Twitter. Sort of met Corey through Twitter. Didn't meet Holly that way, but most people I know I actually kind of met in general through Twitter. But on the other hand, I hate it. I just fucking hate it. And I think you kind of get what I mean. I'm guessing you get what I mean, because there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of infighting, subtweeting, which I just fucking hate. Now, I have a point to this. So how do you feel about bands getting, how would you recommend bands not get sucked into the negativity, but how can they use it for a promotional tool, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it is don't engage with people who are trying to start shit. I hope it's okay that I swear.
You can swear all you
Totally
want.
fine.
Okay, great.
Totally fucking fine.
Perfect. Just don't engage. Don't have, conversations with the people who are known to have, inflammatory statements, I guess you could say. Don't involve yourself in conversations that just don't involve music that you enjoy. Like you should be there to connect and to promote your band, but don't get too involved in the bullshit. Have an alt account for that if you must.
I agree. And unless Hope's throwing down something else, I'm talking about, don't get involved in the politics, don't get involved in the band fights, don't get
lots of infighting. If you feel the need to make a statement about your band's political, beliefs or values or whatever, then so be it. But, having the conversation with people back and forth, that's just going to end up with screenshots. Let's just put it that way.
I think we've all fallen into the trap at one point in time of engaging, and it's just not worth it at all.
Yeah, I had my time when I was in college, and that was on Facebook, not Twitter. And I learned my lesson back then.
You need to get into a Twitter fight, Aaliyah. It's an experience.
I really don't. No,
You really
don't.
do.
I mean, I can fight about something like nacho cheese Doritos versus Cool Ranch Doritos, because nacho cheese are definitely the best. But
Oh, you'll get into a fight on
Oh,
that one.
and I
yeah,
know that's a controversial opinion.
You'll
that is
get into a fight on that one.
controversial.
So back to Twitter for a second here. Okay, so Ben gets on Twitter. So since you're a journalist in the underground primarily, you don't really cover the mainstream, at least
Right.
not yet. I mean, if you do at some point, that's a different question. But right now, you're basically covering the more underground death metal, black metal type stuff.
Mhm.
So band comes on Twitter. They want to get in touch with you, or they want to get the attention. No Clean Singing, a writer at No Clean Singing, or even Last Rites, because they're more underground too. How do they do it without becoming, getting annoying or becoming douchebags or anything like that? Because it happens, as we all know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it happens.
Especially the women get it more than the guys do. But so how would one, if they were in a black metal or death metal band, get the attention of Hope to get written about without coming across as douchebags?
To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, for me, I much prefer to receive my promotions through a promotions company, work with C Squared, work with, various promo companies and do it the right way. There's a lot to be said about word of mouth though. I get that, and the underground certainly thrives on that. A lot of the best bands that I've discovered have simply just been something that somebody's, whispered in my ear or sent me a link about, right?
Same.
But like, as far as reaching out to a journalist to get your shit covered, I wouldn't. I would reach out via the proper channels. And I would, for NCS, for instance, there is a contact page and an email where you send, and it'll be reviewed by the powers that be, and we'll go from there.
You do the professional angle then. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I do personally, that's just how I work. Otherwise I would be bombarded by people sending me links and DMs all the time with stuff for them to review. And I still get it. Just most of the time I won't reply.
Fair. So let me rephrase the question then. Let's say a band does not have a PR.
Yeah.
They fucked up. They already released the album, but they want to get coverage by someone like you. How should they get your attention in that way? Because there's a lot of bands like that, like they can't afford a PR, unfortunately, especially in the death metal, black metal area. Do you think they should just not bother, or what do you think?
No, I mean, still definitely try to get your name out there, whether it's, smart marketing yourself, like on Facebook or Twitter or Reddit even has a huge thriving metal community that I haven't been a part of for years, but I understand that's still something that a lot of bands will use.
Yeah.
So, word of mouth is everything. Play live shows if that's something that you're able to do to really get yourself out there. And I don't want to speak for every journalist, this is still something that I'm fairly new at. Other journalists might enjoy getting the occasional link sent to their DM from a cool band. For me personally, it's just overwhelming. Let's put it that way.
Nobody does.
No, I don't think anybody does. I'm just asking because I know that I've actually had it in the past where I've had a band DM me something and it's actually been good, but most of the time it's not. And I was just curious about your opinion, because most people say the same thing that you do, but I was curious about it. Now I have a question for you, just as a consumer / journalist. Does the album only being available digitally have an effect on whether you want to cover the band or not?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you're not one of those has to have physical product, otherwise I don't think it's really worth it. Okay.
No, not at all. I mean, there's so many bands. I had mentioned like that Hell Poison demo earlier. If enough people buy it on Bandcamp, maybe they can do something physical. I do collect physical media. I have a huge, large vinyl collection. I'm starting to get into cassettes and CDs. So I do find that important for me as a consumer, but for me to write about, no, it's simply just like, what speaks to me. And that's what I'm writing about first and foremost. I don't even consider the format that they have available.
Interesting. Cool. Out of curiosity, I asked this question on Twitter the other day, so I'm actually just curious. Do you buy digital only releases out of curiosity?
I do. Yeah.
Aaliyah, what do you? I actually want to know, but I'm sorry I'm taking this off track a little bit, but I'm actually curious about the thought behind buying digital albums.
I buy digital albums. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you
to
guys
support
both.
the artist.
Is that the only reason why, is just to support the artist? Because I just can't think with
Yeah.
paying for a digital download.
For me, it is just to support the artist, because I, instead of using Apple Music, which I feel like I should because I have an iPhone, I use Spotify to stream. So first of all, I like to buy digitally when it's available, because then I can support the artist.
Fair.
But it is really just about supporting them, because I'm not able to download from Bandcamp to my Spotify library. So, if I want to listen to an album, as much as I want to, and it's only available on Bandcamp, then I'll also purchase it as well, because then I don't have the streaming limit. So yeah, a few different reasons, but it always just comes down to supporting the artist financially.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. And for me, like, I don't pay for Spotify. So if I want to be able to listen to music without the ads, I like it does serve a purpose in that regard as well. So I can listen to the album all the way through as intended.
Yeah, yes.
I took us off topic. I'm sorry, Aaliyah. You want to get us back on the
Oh,
rails?
that's okay. We're talking about Twitter.
Oh, yes.
I guess we answered a lot of the questions that I had, so I don't need to revisit those.
I have something if you want, Aaliyah.
Okay. Yeah, I had another question, but go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to talk about building a following. So Hope, I think I've only been following you for about a year, I think, maybe a year and a half. I don't know, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. But so how would you say a band should build a following? Because you've got a fair number. I mean, for someone that's like, I mean, you've only been writing for what, about a year?
Yeah, almost exactly a year.
Yeah. So how would you suggest building up a following in that case then?
Well,
what did you do?
See, it's different because I'm not a band.
Well, yeah,
so
but what did you do? What did you do?
I gratuitously shit post.
Ooh.
I just like to be able to talk shit online. But above all, I scream about metal, and I have been on Twitter for, I think my account goes back to like 2012 or something ridiculous. But I
joined November 2015. I just looked.
There you go, 2015.
Yeah.
So I took a long break, and I didn't use it for years and years. And then I think in 2019, I picked it back up again for something completely unrelated to metal. It was probably politics or something like that.
Oh no, after we said don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Well, I learned my lesson. I don't do that anymore. And then I had come across somebody talking about one of my favorite bands out of Quebec, which is Gabura. And then I kind of came to realize, like, oh, there's this whole network of people that are talking about bands. And it wasn't as established as it is now in 2023 is like metal Twitter, but there have been some people who have been online talking about metal for a long time. And so I just kind of started joining in on the conversation. Here's an album that I like. Have you guys checked out this band? Here's my, albums that I've been listening to this week, or here's my albums of the year. And then eventually that community just kind of grew, and it's just been really fun ever since. So yeah, I wouldn't think that I have any particular method to growing followers. It's just kind of something that's accumulated over time.
I'll let Aaliyah ask her question. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep you talking. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the point of this podcast, Curtis.
But you're the host and I'm the co-host, so I have to follow your lead.
We are equal hosts. Okay.
No.
Equality. We're about
No.
equality here.
No. Not in this case.
We'll talk about that later. So my question is, maybe have you noticed a trend if like what kind of content does perform the best on Twitter?
I think that people love a good inflammatory conversation. So unfortunately, things that are a little bit controversial tend to gain a lot of traction, which is something that I often conspicuously stay out of is those types of threads. I just prefer not to get involved. Obviously funny content. If you're somebody who is attractive, you're probably likely to get more followers just based on that, just, nature of the internet. But yeah, I mean, as long as you're talking about metal and you're talking about it sincerely, I think that people really kind of tend to gravitate towards that.
So don't be a douche, in other words.
Yeah, don't be a douche.
Don't be a douche. Don't be a douche. Talk about metal. Don't be a douche. Show off your stuff.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, people love a good collection.
Yeah.
Um,
Like you post a lot of vinyl pictures and other things.
so,
It's fucking like, how many do you actually buy per month? It seems like a lot, or no?
you know what? I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. I choose not to think about it.
I hope you don't have kids.
I don't know.
Good, good,
No,
good,
no.
good,
Thank
good,
you.
good, 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 good. How like do you actually get that many vinyl, or does it just seem like you're always having new stuff?
I mean, a lot of what I post is stuff that I've had for years as well. But no,
Fair
I do
enough.
buy a lot of vinyl, and it's probably an issue. Yeah.
I see Aaliyah as
I see
forming
cassettes as
something.
well.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you feel
Absolutely.
about the cassette
Let's talk about
revolution?
cassettes.
Oh, I'm such a big fan. I love to talk about cassettes. I'm a big fan of the resurgence of cassettes. I will plug, my partner's label, Mythic Ironworks,
I
who
forgot he
almost
had
works
that.
exclusively with cassettes, and they're wonderful. They're so much fun. I love the nostalgia of it. I love the artwork that comes along with it. You know, the art in the J card itself is like a whole other world sometimes. I think it's really cool when a release has different art for the cassette than they do for the EP or for the LP. Yeah, I'm just a big fan.
So, Aaliyah, what do you think of cassettes before I give my own opinion? I like them, by the way.
I like them. I mean, I don't have any. I don't have I don't have a way of playing vinyl records or cassettes, so
Fair.
um I don't really collect either of them. But I understand the nostalgic appeal of a cassette, and I so often wish I had methods of playing them so that I could justify collecting them.
I have 2 Walkmans. I might be mailing you one at
Ooh,
some point.
there you go. Old school.
I have your address. I could just do this. But anyways, I just curious. So on cassettes, do you prefer them over CDs, or you don't care, or what?
And I mean, if it depends. So many bands are only capable of doing a cassette release,
Yeah.
which is, if I'm able to support them that way, fantastic. The quality for a CD is typically going to be better than a cassette. So if there's an option for a CD, then I would probably go that route. But
Interesting.
not always. Sometimes I'm just really drawn to the art, or if the cassette shell itself is really cool too.
Which format do you like the best, out of curiosity?
Vinyl.
Vinyl? Is that just is it the sound or the collectability of it, out of curiosity?
Both, yeah, definitely both. I mean, I love the sound. I have a great system. But yeah, I just love the entire thought process that goes behind the vision of crafting vinyl.
I'm going to say something controversial. I hate CDs.
Fair.
I now do. I like the sound quality of them, but the thing, I don't know. I know, Aaliyah, I knew you were going to get that reaction. The thing, what I actually like the most, believe it or not, is cassettes for the collectability portion of it. Now I was going to ask you, so your partner mainly does cassettes, you said.
Yes.
So was that the driving force in getting you to collect cassettes, or were you already collecting before that?
I wish I could say I was collecting before that, but no, he was absolutely the driving force in getting me into cassettes. I think my first ever one was from his label. So.
Okay, I was curious about that because I didn't think you were old enough to be around when cassettes were in their prime. So I just was curious about that. Ali, I've gotten us way off topic again. Bring us back.
I was going to say we can transition to other topics now. I mean, we've covered pretty well Twitter. We've covered pretty well the journalism aspect. So if we wanted to talk about vinyl and cassette,
I do.
Fine.
Well, I do. Well, actually, another thing I want to bring up that we didn't bring up yet is live shows. Have you ever considered reviewing live shows, Hope?
I have considered that, and I would love to. I would love that opportunity. Yeah. I go
well, I was going to say, how many do you actually go to? A bunch in Vancouver, or what?
Oh yeah. If there's a metal show in town, I'm there.
I used to hate going to shows in Vancouver just because of where they were located. I don't know if it's still the same, but there was like some interesting.
Oh yeah, no, that hasn't changed. The Rickshaw is the most popular venue in town for metal shows, I would say, and it's right downtown, right on East Hastings. The area is horrible. The venue is great. It's home.
Yep. Okay, that's interesting. The Rickshaw is still there. So okay, so now if you were able to get a guest list spot to any show that you could possibly do for your very first review, hitting Vancouver, any tour, doesn't matter the size. Well, it's got to be metal. Obviously, you can't go outside of the metal genre. It can be big, small. What band is it that Hope wants to get guest listed to, so that way she can review and interview the band, review the show and interview the band, and why?
Like a current active playing band. I mean,
Yeah, it can't be anything from the past.
yeah, for sure. I mean, being in Vancouver, I have the opportunities to rub shoulders, if you will, with the Blasphemy crew.
Yeah,
I would love to get an interview with Blasphemy. I know that probably will never happen. But being able to cover their show especially would be very cool.
I didn't even know they were still playing shows, to be honest.
Yeah, they played most recently in Tijuana at the Nuclear War Now Fest in December.
Oh, so they're doing like one-offs every once in a while. Okay, so other than Blasphemy, non-local band, you gotta give me
Non-local band.
non-local, because that's too easy for Vancouver. Blasphemy.
Portal. I would love to interview, and I would love to see Portal live.
Why?
They have such a cool imagery, like everything about them. I love dense music, first of all, really, really dense black metal and or death metal, I guess, in this case. And I would just really love to talk to them about their songwriting, their crafting, how they come up with whatever the hell they do.
What do you think would be okay? So you score the interview with Portal, you get to review their show and everything like that. What is going to be the main thing you want to find out? What is the actual key takeaway you're going to try to get from that interview, out of curiosity?
I mean,
Digging deep on you.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have to think about that one quite a bit longer to give a really good answer about it. But I think that's what it would come down to. I want to know, how do you write such dense music with going into it with a clear vision?
Fair.
I guess hard to describe, but yeah, how do you go into something knowing what you want to do when you come out with that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Back to Twitter for a second. Do we got a few minutes, Aaliyah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Back to Twitter for a second. So one issue that I've found with Twitter, and I'm sure Aaliyah has as well, is people trying to do engagement bait. You don't do that. I've never seen you do that, at least if you're doing it, I've not noticed it. How would you suggest that bands avoid doing engagement bait, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious when you see it.
Yeah.
I think that bands should probably, interact on posts about music, only about music. If they want to really get their voice as a band out there. I think that using certain features on Twitter, like the poll feature, for instance, if you're a small unsigned band, stuff like that, to kind of get your audience's perspective about what you should be doing, I think that's all right. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But yeah, I mean, just interact with people like you're a fan, have conversations about music, and then the people who you want to be engaging with will come to you.
What's your most aggravating Twitter story that you can tell us without going into detail?
Oh my gosh, please
The
don't.
most aggravating. The most aggravating.
Oh Lord, there have been so many.
I'm sure.
Trying to think of some that wouldn't necessarily be a cause for controversy. You know what? No, I can't even begin to get into any that wouldn't be a cause for controversy. I'm sorry.
Okay. Then I wanted to do the opposite end of the thing. What do you think was the best interaction that you've had with a band on Twitter, you personally, like something that you felt was actually like a good engagement?
With a band, there aren't a lot of bands on Twitter. I think that there's
on social media, on social media in general. Then,
yeah, let me think.
Well, you're thinking about it. I'll give a couple of shout outs here.
Sure.
So Sarah Jezebel Diva, I think not the first time I met her on what was it, Instagram? Yeah, it was Instagram, I think. Was very, very nice, very, very sweet, and very, very pleasant to deal with. It was just like a normal conversation having, with people. But the thing that always gets me is when a band kind of slides into your DMs and then they get all kind of, what's the right word, demanding with you. Have you ever had that?
Oh yeah.
listen to my music and you're just like, I don't know who the fuck you are, or else you're getting like this link or something. You're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, I was talking about myself and I should be waiting for you.
No, that's okay. I'm still trying to think. I think it's great when bands just interact with people that like their shit. I love, not only do I love metal, but I also love Orville Peck. I'm a huge fan of Orville Peck, and he always posts on his Instagram stories, fan art or tattoos that people have gotten of him, stuff like that. And I just think it's a cool way to interact with people that love what you do, is just to show appreciation back to them.
What are some accounts that you enjoy following? It doesn't have to be band accounts.
On Twitter specifically?
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of cute animals. I follow accounts that post fennec foxes and servals and ferrets and possums on the daily. I think that
Every metal person is into this shit. I think it's funny.
I think so too. Yeah. For sure. I've got a little community of people that I follow on Twitter who are fun as individuals, and I care for them as friends as well, beyond just what they post. But for the most part on Twitter, I'm just there for the cute shit and the good metal.
Is there any band accounts you want to recommend?
Band accounts?
Yeah, band accounts.
Why am I blanking on bands that are on Twitter?
God. You shouldn't be.
I know I shouldn't be, because there's not many, and that's the truth. Like there's labels, $20 is pretty active on Twitter, things like that.
I'm going to give a shout out to Shield the Wings just because Leah's sitting here.
Oh, well, thanks. I want to give a shout out to Aether Realm, because I always thought that they did a great job of like retweeting funny things and always interacting with their fans. And I think they did a really good job.
I'm calling nepotism on.
What's really fun is a band called Slave Agent. They are the same people who did Autonosis, or at least one of the same people from what I understand. And they're a small band. I think their account's pretty small last I checked. They're out of Ontario, actually.
Niagara Falls. I'm following them now.
There you go. And their shtick, or their bit that they commit to, is just really cool. It's just, like transmissions from space type thing. And that's just, they sign all of their tweets that way. So I think if you're an artist and you're going to commit to the bit, like that's cool too. I have a lot of respect for that.
That's interesting, because that can go two ways. That can either be awesome, like you said, or it can just go bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Like you just look like a complete idiot.
Right.
So you're saying Slave Agent does it right then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check this down out further. Aaliyah, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I think it's about time we wrap up, actually. Do you have another question you want to ask before we do?
I'll ask a goofy question if you're okay with that. And then you should ask your former goofy question at the end of that as well. Well, this isn't really a goofy question, but a serious question. Well, serious question. So in the eternal battle between cassettes and CDs, which win? And I'm not just necessarily talking in terms of sound, in terms of collectability. You don't have to say cassette just because I said I hate CDs, obviously, but just out of curiosity, which format would you prefer? Do you think is the best, and why?
Out of cassettes and CDs?
CDs, yeah. Vinyl doesn't count.
Okay, vinyl doesn't count. Okay. So just overall, not even in terms of sound.
Overall, like you just, it's collectability, it's sound, whatever you want to say, dude.
Cassettes. I'm going with cassettes. I mean, I think CDs are great. They're easier probably to store than CDs, but CDs are easier to store than cassettes, no doubt, but cassettes are just more fun.
I agree 100%. And then I got one goofy question actually that I'll ask you. Cats or dogs? Oh,
cats. I'm a cat person.
Cool.
I love both.
Cool. I'm done, Aaliyah.
All right. And then the most important question of the evening. Actually, I don't know if you have both of them where you live. McDonald's versus Wendy's.
Oh, I do have both of them. That is a tough question. I'm going to go with Wendy's simply because I'm a big fan of the bacon portobello mushroom melt burger when they come out with that like once a year.
That's fair.
I should have asked you Taco Time or Taco Bell.
I've never had Taco Bell in my life.
I've never had Taco Time.
Taco Time's only in Canada though, in BC. They actually don't have them out in Ontario or anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never had taco time.
That's odd. I thought they had them in Vancouver now.
I think we do, but I've just never taken the time.
Don't bother. It sucks.
Well, this has been a heavy business, and I hope you learned something today other than Taco Time and Taco Bell.
No, that was the most important part.
I guess
of the
that was
podcast.
probably, you're right. That was the most important
Yeah.
thing that we learned this
Yes,
podcast.
yes.
Anyways, until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.